we can go back and watch the first one of SEMRush if, you need a revisit of the UI or any of like the basic functionality, setting up projects or things like that. Today, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on specifically position tracking and how you can use some of the more like in-depth features in SEMRush to do position and key phrase tracking. So, increasingly clients are concerned not just about where they show up on the search engine results page, but who else is there and how they rank in comparison, right? And as you know, there's always, just want to like always start this by saying, whenever we're talking about competitors, it's very important that we clarify to anybody we're talking to that we're not necessarily talking about business competitors. We're talking about website competitors, and those very much may or may not be the same. And we'll talk in a second about some of the abilities of SEMRush to target or to provide data down to like a local level, like the zip code level, which can alleviate some of that conflation where it's like you're competing against Wikipedia or Harvard Business Review, things like, where clients get into this very problematic situation where they can't outrank because they're trying for key phrases that are too broad and dominated by sites that have considerably higher domain authority and other things like that. Okay. I promise there are interactive elements to this. This is not going to be like the last 2 weeks when all I did was monologue about Google Search Console and Google Analytics. So, well, there's one interactive element, but maybe we could find more along the way. Okay. So there's the session one recap. You're welcome to, rewatch that at any time if you need to, but basically we're just going to skim over all the basics, like basic UI and stuff, because you can find that on the previous video. And we're going to talk through what we're going to talk through today. So any questions before we start? All right. So as you know, SEMRush is set up with projects. So for instance, if you're logging into our SEMRush, which somebody is, who's in here? I'm gonna kick you out. Who wants to guess?
It may actually be me.
Girlfriend? Seriously. I'm just kidding.
I tried to get in there the other day, so I don't know how long it holds you onto that for, but it might be me.
No problem. It could also be me in a different tab. Who knows? Okay, so SEMRush is organized in projects. You have a certain limit on how many projects you can upload. You upload the project and then you configure it. And as you can see, there are many, subsections within the project setup that you can do. I have one that's already set up because this is one that we already track, but I'm going to go ahead and set up a new one today. So let's do Hogan Taylor. That'll be fun, right, Katie? You said Hogan Taylor, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple things. On a project level, you can add tags to organize this dashboard. We don't because we don't have hundreds of them in here, so it doesn't really matter. But basically, the only thing that we've done for Hogan Taylor so far is a site audit in SEMRush. So we ran a site audit, so that's already set up. And the site audit almost always, if you select it to, will generate on-page SEO ideas, but the rest of these are not set up yet. So we'll kind of walk it through so you can see me do it one time. And then part of your homework, if you want to do it, will be to go in and set it up for some of our other clients. All right, so we'll go click on the setup button. And what it's going to do is so this is in the position tracking. Sorry, I should have clarified that. So this is the position tracking column. Okay. And then we click on setup. And you're going to be able to investigate a couple of things. Okay. So first, you're going to be able to pick it as the root domain, subdomain URL. What?
You're on the wrong account.
Oh, whoops. I get these two clients so mixed up. Terrible. Thank you. Okay. Root domain, subdomain, URL, or subfolder. Okay, so you can automatically tell then that you could do this on a more granular level. We're going to do it on the highest possible level to start. You're always going to choose Google because we're in the US, and we're always going to choose mobile first because at the end of the day, that's what we're probably most interested in. Okay. So what we can do now is we can go in and set the location. So I want to show you that you can set, obviously the default would be to set for the United States. Now, Hogan Taylor is an accounting firm in the Midwest, right, Katie? Tell us where you are.
Sorry. Yes, we are in Arkansas and Oklahoma.
Right. So if you wanted to, you could conceivably go in and grab, let's see, what is your main office address? Let's see.
That
Little Rock?
Yeah. No, our Tulsa office.
Okay. So if we were saying, okay, for James Moore, we want to go, Hogan Taylor, we want to go in and target local business. Like we want to be the answer to accountant near me when people are searching on Google. And that's like the primary consideration of our SEO strategy. I just want to show you how to do this. Then when you go in to set it up, you can go in and you can set it up by zip code. Okay. So I could go in and actually set the postal code. So who can think of another Google property that would play very nicely with this form of analysis?
Was this Google My Business?
Yes. So this is going to be pulling, and it's already going to be trying to pull data from your map pack. So if you're pulling data from the map pack, you're obviously going to be registering the business under a certain zip code, and you cannot have multiple locations for Google My Business. You have to have a single location. So if you have a strategy going where you're doing geo-targeting ads, driving to a Google business profile, right? There's a funnel like that. It would make great sense to have your position tracking be related to that. Because even if you were trying to pay for that traffic via ads, you still want to know generally what kind of organic you get. Okay. I'm not going to set it up down to that level because that's probably not the play for this client, but I just wanted to show you, like, you have to set it up before, and it's a huge pain in the butt to edit it afterwards. So I want to make sure we just all see it so that, you know, like, this is how you would set it up from the beginning. All right. And then you would probably go, let's see. Do you know if you have a Google business, Katie?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So then you would go in, just name it, you know, whatever would make sense for you. And then you would have the ability to add key phrases. So obviously position tracking is going to work on 2 dimensions. It's going to work in the form of against other domains, domain competitors, and it's going to work to track SERP position, search engine results page position, which has to do obviously with queries, right? Or key phrases. So both of those things are important to set up. So what we would do in order to not have to type like crazy is go in, and we'll go into the Hogan Taylor site audit that we did, or just even the Hogan Taylor, you know, regular dashboard. So we'll click on the project and we'll get all the data, right? And then we're going to go pick up our key phrases. So what this is going to do immediately, the version of this that I'm doing, is it's going to be diagnostic. Right? This is going to tell us what we are ranking for and how we move in those rankings. This is not going to capture in what we're doing right now in setup anything prescriptive, right? Anything we would try to do. So if we launch a topic cluster for Hogan Taylor, we're obviously going to collect all the key phrases that we hope to rank for and set it up separately as a position tracking project within Hogan Taylor. Okay. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. All right, so what you do is you just take those key phrases. We've got about 1,200. We're going to go in here. We're going to export them all. We'll put them in Excel. Okay. And then when you go in here, so this is back at the original tab where we were setting up this project, you're going to go import from, oh, it has to be CSV. Seriously. Try again. CSV. All right. So then we'll go import from, and we'll pull up this. Okay. And then make sure you uncheck this because it will use up all of my data credits. Okay, so uncheck that. So what this is going to do is, looks like it added everything. I don't know if that worked. Let's see. It looks like it didn't format right, but I might have uploaded the Excel instead of the CSV. All right, but then what you would do if you did it correctly, we'll find out, is click and go in and then have the position tracking campaign would begin to set up. Okay. So as you know, anytime you set up anything in SEMRush, you kind of got to wait a few minutes to kind of let it all click into place. But that's the basics. Okay. So 2 dimensions, you're tracking competition against other domains. You're tracking competition in SERP via queries. Okay. And once it's set up, then it'll basically say that it's set up. So we'll go into one now. This is my new thing. Don't you love this? I bake the bread in advance, and then I show you the baked loaf. Okay.
Can I ask you a
So,
question?
yeah.
In the project level line, you got site audit, position tracking, on page SEO, all of those. Is there somewhere that you can edit those? Because I don't see any of those on my dashboard.
What level of SEMRush do you have?
Oh, is that probably what it is?
Might be.
Okay.
I think we have Guru.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think we're there.
Yeah, there's a limitation on the data that you can pull based on the level of subscription you have.
Yeah, that's probably it. Okay, thank you.
SEMRush just wants your money. All right.
No.
All right. So we'll go into the position tracking now for another client, just so you can see what it looks like. Any other questions while that's loading up?
So theoretically, you had gone in and inserted the zip code at the beginning. How would that impact the keywords that you're inputting into the system? Because obviously now you are looking specifically at Tulsa versus the rest of the marketplace. I guess what would that process entail, or would you even do anything different?
Yeah, so you'll see a little bit more specificity. So let's go in and do it, and then you can actually see what it looks like. What's the zip code again? So I can show you. The report just looks different because you're targeting, so it's going to deliver specific data to you. All right, let's go in here. All right, so it's going to let you toggle between national, local. So the volume, the keyword volume of searches within that geographic range,
okay,
is going to vary based on what you set in there. All right, so we'll just not worry about adding key phrases. We'll let that set up and then I can kind of show you. Oh, it went right away because I didn't put much data into it, so you can kind of see. All right, so I only put one key phrase into it, so the data will obviously be very limited, but I'll just show you what the visualization looks like so you can kind of see the difference. It takes all this time to add one key phrase. All right, we'll go back to that in a second. Okay.
So kind of part two of that
Yes.
question really quickly.
Okay.
In the event that, and this may be way outside of the box, but in the event that, let's say that Hogan Taylor wants to put a bigger emphasis on growing their Little Rock, Arkansas office, how difficult is it to change it after the fact to adjust that, or do you create a new line within SEMRush, or what does that entail?
Yeah, there's like a step-by-step. Hold on. Like you do this.
You're not sharing, I don't think.
I'm not.
Yeah, I see it. Doing the old Google there.
Oh, never mind. I clicked off of it. My bad.
I'm having the weirdest internet issues today. All right, so yeah, you can change the device and location. You just have to go through a bunch of steps.
Okay.
So there's like a video that you can just Google it. So
Cool.
you would have to, the problem is like you end up, when you create new targets, you end up clearing like the cache of data, which is a huge pain in the butt. So it's like, if you know you want multiple, like you might as well just do them all at the beginning because then you don't ever lose anything kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Let's see if it shows. Okay, cool. Okay, so now you can see. So right up here is where you would see what you're pulling. So then you can toggle between national and local. But notice it doesn't give me the option to have local Arkansas, local whatever, right? I don't know if you can do that. You might be able to, but it'll tell you exactly where you're targeting. So then everything that I see in this view is going to be relative to local search data instead of national search data. Okay. Any other questions about that? Cool. All right. So let's walk through the position tracking UI. So again, I got here by going, you can either go through projects or you can go through the actual position tracking tab as long as you have the right URL, selected, the right project selected that you've set up. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to automatically have, some things that it just tells me. This summary is new, and it'll have, just kind of statements about the big data points that most of us are tracking. But what I want to kind of do is run through these tabs real quick. So the landscape, is just kind of your dashboard catch-all. You're going to see the ability to click into the three things with key phrases. Okay, top key phrases, positive, negative, right? So if you want to know, so this is where that sandbox comes in handy. So this was from a custom sandbox. So when I started this position tracking project for them, I uploaded a list of all my big target key phrases. So this doesn't mean that this client only has 76 key phrases. It means it has 76 key phrases that I uploaded and want to track, right? And that's important because yes, you can seed it with like every key phrase that client tracks for, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of key phrases that don't matter. right? Like employee names and things like that, where you're like, that's probably not winning us business because somebody Googled that because they already know that person, right? Even the company name, right? It might not be that that's a very valuable key phrase from tracking business one from organic search, because if they're searching for your name, they already know you. So you can't count that as an organic search win. So you just use your judgment as you're thinking through, like, what key phrases do I actually care about that win us business, that I want to show positive movement on, or that I want to pay attention to negative movement on. All right. So then what you can do is, and here, so we're kind of starting with key phrases and then we're gonna go back to domains. What you can do in here is tag key phrases. So for instance, if we were doing a topic cluster on negotiation training for this company, then I would want to say, all right, I want the H1 of the pillar and I want the H1 of every blog, and then any kind of high power, high volume related key phrases that are going to be part of that topic cluster strategy. And I would want to input those in here and tag them as negotiation. So that would be a really tidy way of organizing the traffic patterns around specific key phrases. Now, HubSpot has built a tool that does this for us. So you can, if your client's on the HubSpot CMS, they can go in and set up topic cluster tracking. However, what that doesn't tell you is key phrases. What that tells you is how many people looked at the pillar, how many people looked at the blog, how many people clicked through. You get on-site behavior from that. You don't get this person Googled this specific key phrase to get here, right? Or your SERP ranking for this key phrase family has increased by 11%, which is data that we need to know if we're going to start, really tracking the SEO value of a topic cluster. So what you can get on site on a CMS, on HubSpot, maybe WordPress has something like that, probably they do, is great for measuring how well that topic cluster performs in terms of your website, but it's not going to tell you how well that topic cluster performs in terms of search. This will. So if you are quite keen and you know that you really need to justify the performance or pay very close attention to the performance of a topic cluster, this would be a really good way to do it. Okay, so you could go set that all up. This is going to give you kind of your overarching, right, of what is gone up and down. What you can do is go into the top key phrases, and then it's going to show you, I'll show you. It's going to show you a few things. It's going to show you overall visibility, estimated traffic based on CTR. Okay, so if you're cross-referencing this in an SEO report or something against data, where would you find that data? Google Search Console. All right, you'll find that data in Google Search Console. Good answer. And then average position. So you'll see kind of what the ebbs and flows have been. Okay. As we know, last 7 days is kind of pointless in SEO world, but sometimes clients want to know very often. For very high volume sites, it may be worth knowing. Okay. So these are the key phrases. You can see at a glimpse, all the key phrases that you already put in your sandbox. You can see a few things like this is based on the date parameters that set, okay, for the past 7 days, here's been the difference. And then you'll see up marks or down marks based on movement. So if you're just like scrolling through it and want to see like big picture, this kind of tells you like if anything dropped big time or went up big time, and that'll kind of give you a picture of that. Okay. So that's just kind of the overall of key phrases. So remember, you set up the project, you set up the position tracking, you added the keywords at that point into the sandbox. You can go in then to the position tracking tab or the position tracking section here, and then you get the landscape, and then the overview gives you more specific key phrase data that you can kind of see down to the level of every key phrase that you're tracking. Any big questions about that? Okay. All right, so I just wanted to kind of do that, and then we're going to go back into competitors. All right, so we talked about there being really 2 dimensions to this conversation. When it comes to position tracking, we're looking at the difference between how we're ranking, so SERPs and key phrases, and we're looking at who we're ranking against, which comes down to domains, which is also in SERPs, but has obviously some other data points and areas. So one of the cool things about this is that it saves a lot of time. So we're going to have a little competition and see who can do it faster. The answer is me, but we'll find that out in a second. All right, so did that defeat you from the beginning?
Is this like the big bread thing where like you're already one step ahead of us? Because I feel like
No, I didn't actually click the button yet. But if I show you the button, then you'll be able to cheat. So I can't really, you'll just have to trust me. So let's pick a website, any website. Let's pick Hogan Taylor because we're here. So it's what, hogantaylor.com probably? Yeah. All right, so I'll share that with you. And so what I want you to do is, I'm not going to show you my screen and what populates, but there on the left side of this column, I want you to go incognito and I want you to try to find. So what do we know about them so far? We know that they're an accounting firm and we know that they're located in Oklahoma and Arkansas, I think. Ross has a dramatically unfair advantage here because he's already helped with the SEO.
Yeah, you can just go look at the deck I put together on this.
He's already done a topic cluster strategy. Okay, maybe you're not allowed to participate. Yeah. So everybody take 2 minutes, start now, and try to find as many actual competitors to Hogan Taylor using Google as you can.
Can I just share somebody's blog post about all the competitors of Hogan Taylor? Can I just do that instead?
Is that real? That's a thing.
I mean,
That's terrible. No, that's cheating. Although I guess I'm shortcutting. Shortcuts are not cheats.
well, my screen's frozen, so.
Don't
that's cool.
shortcut too much because I gotta find that keyword file because all the competitors are nothing burgers because I don't have any data in there. You guys see that? There's a squirrel on my window. That's crazy. You can't really see it from where you are.
Is he like climbing your window? Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Look. He's like on, I just heard like this bang and he's on the screen outside the window. I don't see any in here. You guys doing this? You can add them as you go.
Oh. Forgot we were supposed to be typing.
Or this is a competitor.
They have a local landing page.
Good job. The big guys always do that.
Are they just supposed to be local competitors or are they supposed to be like nationwide competitors?
You tell me based on what you find.
I mean, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on in Oklahoma. At least not according to Google.
This website is ranking for nonprofit advisory services. That's good. Oklahoma Christian University football too. All right, good job. Okay, so it's not letting me, oh wait, somebody messaged. Who did this? Have you seen this, Katie? Hold on, I'll share. This is not accurate. It has them competing
No, I've
against
never seen this.
Grant Thornton. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
There's a handful of websites that claim that they have like a
Yeah.
list of this. There's lots of companies that seem to think they're competing with them.
Yes. All right, good. Adams Brown, Mossad. Yep. So I recognize most of these. So I think you're probably right. So the difference is if I had loaded this up correctly, basically what I would be able to do is go into, into the position tracking. And if the client had key phrases set up correctly, you would be able to go into competitors discovery and literally see every single one of their competitors. Now, I only added one keyword to this. So obviously it's not going to be very complete, but I assure you, if you do it right and you set up all of the keywords correctly, it is very accurate. And you'll be able to get down to a pretty granular level with seeing how they stack up against one another. So I will show you one that is set up correctly and you can see what I mean. All right, so this has the key phrases already loaded in it, and I go to competitors discovery, and then I'm basically going to see all of the competitors. Now, what do you immediately see as a huge problem based on, let's look really quick. So if we look at this site and we say basics about this site, pick up the right data points, okay? Because you're gonna need to pay attention, and then you can tell me what I need to know. Good God, have mercy on my soul. What is happening right now? SEO dashboard. I clicked on it 5 times and it kept going down the list. All right, so pay attention. Look at the data. Okay, now we're going to go back to position tracking. We're going to go back to Aslan. We're going to go to competitors discovery. What's the problem?
HubSpot, really? Coursera, Salesforce, like you're
So
way.
why is that a problem?
Because they're not a CRM.
Yeah, it's not even the same field.
Yeah.
But what's the problem from a website perspective? Even if they were relevant.
They're never going to rank HubSpot, Coursera, Salesforce,
Never.
Zendesk.
Exactly.
Never in a million years.
Thinking.
Exactly. Totally impractical, right? So what do you do? Right. But technically these are legitimate competitors because these are the right key phrases and these competitors are ranking for those key phrases. So SEMRush is correct in thinking these are the ones who are ranking highest for the phrases you want to rank for. However, we know they are not business competitors and there's no chance that they're ever going to rank against them. So what we need to do then is go in and filter them out. So what you can do is you can go into hide domains. So basically we call it like want to ignore Wikipedia, right? We all want to ignore Wikipedia because nobody's trying to compete. Like we're not trying to get the same traffic. It's not qualified. It's garbage. So we can go in and we can hide the domains of those. Okay. So you go into ignore domains and you could set up. So if we wanted to do this, we could set up HubSpot.com and say like, we want to ignore HubSpot.com. We want to ignore. Okay. So then we would just add them to this list and then it would take them off of our competitor. And then it might start getting a little closer. There's still quite a few of these I would need to get rid of, but there are definitely some in here that are legitimate. All right. So it's a really fast and easy way to go do this. You like everything in data, you can, toggle your date range and do the things that you want to kind of see, but it'll remove them from all the lists. Okay. So you can kind of see. One of the things that you want to kind of look at as you get into this is considering, kind of what's the share, like what's the share of how we're ranking across the various properties. So if you wanted to, like for a company like Aslan, there is absolutely no local anything. So it would very much be worth us just taking that off because we don't really want that to be a point of consideration. We can go in and upgrade to business. What are you talking about? We can go in and add competitors too. Okay. So I want to just show you that real quick and then we'll look at a couple of the other position and competitor tracking stuff. I want to show you winners and losers because it's kind of cool. So you can go in and add your own competitors to the list and then so you can add up to 20 and it will kind of suggest it to you, but obviously those aren't going to be like the most accurate, or you can go in and add them yourself. And so if I have like key competitors that I know like my my boss wants me to pay attention to, or if I have key competitors I know the client cares most about, those are the ones then that you're going to shortlist to watch. So you can figure out what do they gain each month over me. And you can kind of do that very specific competitive analysis and competitor tracking in organic search. So we know that, you know, for instance, Rain Sales Training is a real competitor. There's a pretty significant difference between Aslan and Rain and the way that they kind of go head to head against one another. Now, you probably know that you can also go in and actually do the head to head competitor tracking where you list everybody's URLs and then see the overlap in the charts and stuff. But this is a nice way to have like a report that's always there. You don't have to input any information every month. You just watch how the competitors, kind of go back and forth. Okay. And then it'll kind of, you can get more granular. And then I just wanted to point this out to you that you can also go in and add custom tags. So if I were to say like, okay, I did a topic cluster on negotiation training. I'm interested to know, compared to Rain and compared to, these 3 other sales training companies that I'm really up against in the marketplace, how does my content rank compared to theirs on specifically negotiation training? So this is where we started at the beginning, right? We set up all the key phrases in the sandbox. We add the tags. That enables us to use a lot of these features in a more focused way. So if you kind of do that setup part correctly, then moving forward, you'll be able to access this data a lot easier. So are they in the top 5? Are we like, who's at the top, who's not? And then you can kind of, get down to more topical coverage in your key phrase distribution, especially against competitors. Any questions about that? All right. When you go over to the winners and losers chart, what it's usually going to do is kind of, so first we would need to go in and like uncheck these because we don't care about any of these, but we do care about these. So we would go in and we would set, like, let's say the past 90 days. Apparently nobody's ranking for anything ever. I don't know why the chart's not coming up. The same thing fluked on their Google Analytics. I couldn't get the Google Analytics thing. That's why I didn't show it to you earlier. It's weird. Okay. Well, what we do know is that it would normally put up a line graph here that's going to be color coded based on the check mark that you see. And it would graph out the average position. So that's domain wide. Okay. And then the number of key phrases. And it'll zoom in or out based on actual volume and how they're distributed. So if it's a really nice data visualization, I'm sorry, I can't show it to you. I don't know why. Oh, maybe it's because I'm in top 5. Let's see. Yep, it is. Okay. Good, user error. Okay, so basically then what it's going to do is put you in these. Okay, so you see visibility, average position, key phrases. You should be able to view this as a line graph, and I'm not sure why it's not coming up. Maybe it's fluked or maybe it's changed. But so what you could do is take out the ones we don't care about, and then you'd be able to very clearly show somebody, all right, this is who's in the lead. Like, very obvious who's in the lead. Who's second? It's very obvious who's second. Who's third? That would be us. Like, it gives you real clarity in this data visualization. So what is this taking into account? Just to remind you, average position across the whole domain and number of key phrases. All right. So just thinking about, are we doing a good job compared to what? And that's the important question to always be revisiting with anyone you're having an SEO conversation with, because benchmarking, you always want to start an engagement with an audit because that gives you a benchmark against which to measure a website itself. But increasingly, people want to know, how am I doing out there? How am I doing out in the world? And so measuring domain performance and SERP performance and getting some handy visualizations to be able to track month over month is a really nice tool. And you've got some really easy ways to pre-program it. So you're really just doing a few clicks and seeing exactly what you need to see. Do we want to look at any other versions of this? Okay. All right, then I want to talk about competitor tracking. So this is the customization that I did. I just want to show you the setup of it real quick, and then we can you know, we can go a little bit further into some of the other parts of the UI here. But basically when you're in your competitor list, so if you were to just do the competitor discovery and it pulled up all of these. So when I'm going through, I can obviously disallow domains, but I'm up against, I mean, 3,200 domains. I'm not going to go disallow. I mean, I can only disallow 20. So if you're wanting to quickly shortlist and say like you're less familiar with a client, or maybe you don't know your own company's website that well, things like that, and you want to shortlist, what you can do is just start visually looking through this list, and then I'll show you. So we can look through this. If you see anybody, Mark, that you think, well, Richardson, do we already have them on here?
Yeah, they were already listed on there.
Yeah, they were already listed on there.
Can you talk briefly about how the number up, like at the top there where it tells you your domain, what that number indicates? Like, what does that mean? 55 on a list where? Like, based on what?
Show me.
Right beside Aslan Training under the competitors list there, number 55. Yeah, what is that?
Yeah,
What is
so
that
out of
reference
this
referred to?
list of competitors, we're 55th on the list.
Out of 100.
Okay, because that's interesting because I'm looking at Modus's stuff, right? And so there's 5,500 competitors and somehow we're at 2,291, but it changes depending on what I click on. But there's no way that that's even a realistic.
But like Mark said, I think it's filtering
Interesting.
based
'Cause
on
the
your,
Zoom info's on here.
say that again?
Zoom info's on my list. And like, we're never competing with Zoom info. Like what, that's not even, we
Right.
make parts.
Well, whitehouse.gov is on here, so.
Yeah, like okay. Okay, so I'm not
So
crazy.
that was on, out of that first 100, like Mark said, we were 55th. Out of the entire list, I think we're 3,072, which is extremely low. However, what I haven't done is gone through and customized this list, right? So like, do we care? I don't, like you just said, I don't care if I don't, do I care if I don't win against Zoom info? No, that's totally meaningless. And that's why, I mean, I've told you this a million times, but like analytics data requires context. If you don't have context for the information, it is actually meaningless. So if you were to look at this and show this to a client and they were like, we're 3,000 out of 3,290, we're losing. Like, that's not what that means. Like, that's an insufficient conclusion.
Right. And then somehow out of all of those competitors, 5,500 of them, we are first for visibility. So
Yeah.
like,
That's good.
Make that make sense.
That's very good.
At 31% visibility, what's up?
There you go.
So
All right. Go
Joy,
ahead.
at the top, you've still got it listed where you're ignoring the 6 domains. That's excluding them from that list down below as well, correct?
It should be, yeah. It should. So whenever you change anything up here, the settings should apply to everything that's in that tab.
Okay.
So if I were to filter a tag right now, it would be filtering all the data down here against that tag selection.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't want to add any of these garbage things because this is a real client. So hold on, let me find somebody real. Who else is there? Competitor.
They actually don't have
I
a
know
lot.
they really don't have a lot.
It might be 5 companies.
What's the last one though? Okay, I got Rain, Richardson.
Yep.
Who else? Did I do Challenger? I think I did
I
Challenger.
thought I saw Challenger on there a minute ago.
Yeah, I
Yep.
did.
Sandler would be the other one.
Got
They're
Sandler.
They're not a Lean Six Sigma competitor. That's a different type of
Right.
setup.
Janik.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Yeah.
Yannick, or however you say it.
And I think it's what JANEK.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Good job. All right, so that'll add in another real competitor that we can look at.
Investopia.
Hmm?
Oh, just laughing at some of the ones that it included on that list.
Not relevant. Okay, but if I wanted to add,
So is that a result of having very, very broad terms within the platform? Because I know theirs is like sales training. Well, that's everybody and their dog is going to have sales training if they're in the CRM world. That's why we're getting HubSpot. That's why we're getting all of these CRMs.
Right.
So I guess that's a direct reflection of that.
it is, and it's part of why topic clusters are so important, because what you can do in a topic cluster is address a really heavy hitting key phrase like sales training, but then have a series of blogs that describe it a lot more thoroughly. So it puts the content in context. Now, does that mean, but the problem is there's no client who runs a sales training company who's going to settle for not ranking for the words sales training.
Right.
Even if we were to tell them that's not a high buy intent key phrase, they simply won't agree. Yeah, sometimes there's just no getting around what people think is going to work. And so you just kind of play the game. So when I am in this list here of competitors, I can go and scroll down into the list and add to competitors. So if you want to do that as a discovery process, you can. Okay, so I could go in and add this to my competitor list. Unfortunately, I just did, dang it. And then it'll do that. You can also hide the domain there. Okay, and then if you're like, I don't recognize that company, I've literally no idea what they do, I'm interested, you can always just open them and kind of see the overview of their traffic analytics and different things like that.
Scroll back down really quickly, Joey.
Mhm.
There was a .au URL in there. If
Was there?
Pe-
Where are we
yeah.
filtered? Let's look up top.
that's what I was going to say, is it's set up for, I know that they're looking at global expansion, but
Where is there? Let's see. Oh, I have it set to the United States.
so will it automatically include like England and Australia if you do that?
English.
Since they're
I mean, it
English
shouldn't,
speaking?
because the IP address should only be coming. So the thing is, I would need to look at what that website actually is, because so when we look at globalization and SEO, a lot of people instead of using subdomains, they use website, like URL structures like that, but then they point the IP address, or the IP is hosted stateside in a data center somewhere. So then the actual origin point of the IP address of that domain is US based, even if like the majority of their traffic comes from Australia.
Gotcha. Okay.
Again, why data needs context. Because if you look at like UK Amazon, it gets tons of hits from the US and things like that, even though like you can't buy anything and get it sent to you from the UK. Like I buy stuff on Amazon Canada for like Chioli and stuff, and yeah, it's weird. So yeah, lots of qualifications. Okay, so we talked about tags, we talked about setup, we talked about competitor discovery, devices and locations. So this is where you would look at adding those specific targets. So if I were to add and say, like, I want to know, more specifically, like the CEO of this company just did a training in Greece. If I'm interested in knowing, like, if Aslan has any traffic in Greece, things like that, I can go in there. And then you can also toggle back and forth. So one thing that sometimes clients don't know is, like, do I get more traffic from tablets or mobile or desktop? Where would you find that out?
GA4.
Good job. Google Analytics, right? Google Analytics is going to tell you what kind of device people are on. So you should know that. If you don't know that, it's easy to find out, but you can also toggle back and forth and kind of, figure out where you're ranking and things like that. The last thing I want to show you just in the UI here is in the featured snippet. So if you read, you know that John Mueller, head of search at Google, has talked about the expiration of FAQ and rich results in SERP, especially in the SGE interface. Interface is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. The SGE experience. Okay. So basically, it used to be that you could do structured data to kind of boost your ability to be seen in FAQs, and people also ask in Google Knowledge Center. Everything that we're hearing out of Google from Gary Illis or whatever his name is, and John Mueller and all that, is that that's like done, and they're not bringing it back. The one thing that remains is featured snippets. And there is rumor that featured snippets are what Bard is going to, they are what Bard is going, part of what Bard is going to draw from to deliver the search generative experience. So if you've seen the new SGE, so what Google will look like moving forward, it's going to have Bard's response to your question first before any URL gets listed. So it's become very important for businesses to figure out a way to have the answer to a question, because Bard may summarize it, but Bard has BARD is built with the ability for a user to check its source. So like, where did you get this information from? And if you read the news last week, BARD added a Google it button. So point being, we used to have this kind of set of ranking ability, right? Including FAQs, including rich result thing. It seems to be narrowing down, and it seems to be very, very text-based content driven, which makes sense because BARD is a language model, right? Makes sense that text is going to win because that's what BARD is reading and delivering to the user. Point being, featured snippet and your ability to get featured snippets in SERP is becoming increasingly important. And what you can do in this last tab here in your position tracking, so you've set it up. You've added the domain, you've added locations, you've added key phrases. Those key phrases feed into a lot of things, as you've already seen. They feed into your ability to look at competitors and how you're ranking in comparison to them. But they also feed into this featured snippet, which tells you out of all of these things that we want to rank for, here are how many times we've been featured. Here's how opportunities that we have. So we really should be looking at these 32 key phrases that we haven't gotten featured snippet ranking for and figure out, do we not have good enough content? Are our competitors too big? I think that would be a pretty obvious conclusion for most of these, but not all of them, right? And figure out, okay, who wins this? So you've got the douchebag himself winning that one. What are you going to do? We hate him. We've got some, though, that are a little smaller. So if you go in and you see like this one right here, right, that might be beatable. So what I would do is just keep track of this and look and be like, okay, this does not look like a very big site. This doesn't look like a very professional site. There aren't a ton of links. We might be able to go against that one. So what was the keyword there? So closing deals. So it may be that this would give you the idea to say, okay, next month's editorial calendar, I want to have a really specific bulleted information article on closing deals because I need to increase my chances of ranking this in as a featured snippet. And this guy looks like beatable compared to Investopedia.com and all that, right? So you just kind of want to keep an eye out for opportunities that have emerged. And this is part of, maybe what it can be very hard to explain to a client about the kind of the cascading effect of rankings. Like, okay, you're on the map. Oh, but we're in position 70, so who cares? Okay, but you're on the map. And when you're on the map, it unlocks opportunities for you to get on other maps, like in other areas of Google, to start ranking more substantially, because Google is not looking at a word. It's looking at an idea. It's looking at a series of semantically related words. That's how Google works, right? So every single ranking has this like exponential potential to blossom into something really powerful for a business if you develop the content right. And so this is just another way to start training ourselves to think that way, to think about the longer term, to think about the different kinds of content beyond just like the pillars and the blogs and things like that. One of the efforts we're making is like for some of our clients who are looking at actually targeting featured snippet placement is to create those summaries of every article, the TLDR. We do it for Playwire. We do it for several of our clients. And it's just kind of the bullet points of like what this article covers. That is a very transparent attempt to get featured snippet placement. If you ever see that, that's what somebody's trying to do. Okay. And this is a way to just measure what your opportunities could be. So like Richardson is an actual competitor, and they have a featured snippet for building trust in sales. So that would be something that we would be very interested in writing about, talking about, having good content. And we would want to investigate and see how good is their content, and then how can we make content that's better. First of all, this is very old, so that's something.
The featured snippets take about the same amount of time to kind of run up the ranks. Do they work in the same kind of window as SEO, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So every time Google drops a helpful content update, it changes.
Helpful.
So every so often, so like when Google dropped this last helpful content update, we had like 3 or 4 clients that like zoomed into featured snippets, stuff we had published like 3 days before. Suddenly became it was indexed and it was a featured snippet, like crazy. so you kind of never know. The reality is it's one of those where we're playing in we're cooking in someone else's kitchen. Like, this is Google's world. Their algorithm is a black box. There are so many unknowns. We are just deciphering the clues. Like, we're in the maze. We don't know who built it. We don't know how to get out, but we're just going to keep building what we can.
Have you tried, I don't know if this seems like a very obvious, like kind of ridiculous thing, but has anybody actually tried, instead of calling it key points or here's the takeaways or the TLDR, can we just call it featured snippet and just make it very obvious? I want, like, does that seem ridiculous? I may try that.
I mean, you can. So the problem is there's
it.
this very specific phrase in Google's guidelines that says that it will de-index or whatever, any content that appears to manipulate search, right? And so it's good, that skirts the line.
It does, yeah.
A little. Plus, I would just mention that featured snippets are harvested as an outcome of your structured data markup. So if you remember when we did that very long and boring training, did I do that for you guys on structured data? Sorry, like never again. But it's about structured data. It's not about on page.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not really, I mean, the bots aren't reading your website, obviously. So there's things like that. Okay. So them's the basics. So let me just recap really quick. I'll do like a very quick. So we set up projects. When we're in projects, we set up competitor tracking or position tracking, sorry. You input all the data, including where you want to show up, including what your key phrases are. You stick all that in the sandbox, and then it will start to run. You'll get access to all of these places where you can find competitors. You can figure out how you're ranking. You can figure out what your top, rankings distribution is. You can set up your own competitors, and then you can set up tags. So if you have groups of key phrases in specific ideological areas, you can set those up as tags. I guess I didn't look at cannibalization. This is actually a very easy, handy tool. Usually you have to find out cannibalization because you forgot that you already wrote about something. So it's a really nice way to be like, oh, we're cannibalizing. I didn't realize, that kind of thing. So that's kind of a nice little bonus. I don't think it makes sense there in SEMRush, but that's where it is. So. All right. Any questions about anything we did? Anything I didn't cover that you want to see or that that I don't?
What kind of key points would you pull out of this if you were to present it to a client, right? Because you're probably not going to take them into SEMRush and go through all this data unless they're like, super into it and focused on this. Like, are you pulling out that chart? Are you pulling out a few key insights to include in their SEO report? Like, how would we use this?
So I would basically present it as, and this is something we're going to talk about when we work on our new reporting structure, but basically there's two big categories that we're paying attention to as we set SEO strategy for you. We're paying attention to how many people search for your website, how many people search and find your website. So we're looking at key phrases and we're writing content so that more people search for the right things who are likely to buy from you. And we want to know that you're competitive in search against the people that you want to be competitive against. So we have reporting processes that help us monitor that month over month. So what I would probably pull out from that is the competitor chart of the overlap. And then I would probably pull out the key phrase position tracking. So here's how many key phrases we won, and here's what they were. Like, pull out the most important ones. Here's how many we lost, and here's what they were, and say what you're going to do about it. So I would say, like, if I were presenting it to almost any of our clients, those are the big ideas, those two categories, and then that's what we would explain to them we're looking at. Any other questions?
Yeah, I might have misheard you, but did you mention that there's a way to like track actual like a topic cluster using this? And would that
Yes.
how would that work? Would that just be relative to the key phrases you input in the beginning?
Yep. So what you would do is use tags. So you would input, if we had, a topic cluster and we have 50 key phrases that are involved in that topic cluster, we would have all of those uploaded here, all the key phrases, right? So we just go in and upload however many more we want. So just copy and paste them, update. So those would be added. And then we would go in and create a tag. So we can create tags that enable us to categorize content, like categorize key phrases. So if we say like it's a negotiation topic cluster, then we're going to set up a tag that says negotiation. And then when you're in here, so the value of that is that when you're in here, then you can go in and you can filter your data view by tag. So that I wanted to look at how movement in that specific topic cluster and those key phrases, I would just filter by that tag. And then all the data I see below would be related to that. Same with competitors. Does that make sense?
Yep. Definitely. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? This was marginally more interactive than last week and the week before. All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there. So let's see. So today was SEMRush. Next week is off. If you work, if you're on staff here, obviously you'll have your one-on-one. And then we're going to go on a really kind of, I'm not going to say tangent. We're going to go on a very awesome journey in site linking. This is a huge, huge part of what I think is going to help people survive in the world of SGE. I think site linking is going to be very important. So we're going to go through basic site linking, optimizing site links, and then advanced site link management and things like that. So we're going to do site links basically all of October, and then we're going to work on backlinks all of November and into December. Well, we'll obviously take off, over the holidays and stuff like that. So just a couple or 3 sessions through those 2 months, but it's going to be good. So we'll learn all about linking strategy. All right. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for your time.
Guys,
If you need me, Slack me.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Talk
Joey.
soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.